I'm very sorry that I wasn't able to post this post-game video blog right after the 3-1 loss that TFC suffered this weekend away in Salt Lake City against Real Salt Lake. Usually I try to do it within 24 hours, but to be perfectly candid with everybody, I was just simply too upset and too pissed off on Saturday and on Sunday to actually have a clear enough mind to actually do this. So I took Saturday and Sunday off. Yesterday I kind of sat back and thought about what I was going to say, and it took me until today, until mid-Tuesday, to actually come up with what I wanted to get to. Saturday night, of course, I don't think anybody, any Toronto FC fan, would have been terribly surprised to hear that TFC lost away to arguably the toughest home team in all of Major League Soccer, Real Salt Lake. And that's exactly what happened, unfortunately. Now, the reason why I didn't post is, as I stated, I was a little mad. I think it was more of a case of, you know, just the losing and the frustration getting to me more than anything else. And that's why I needed to take a couple of days to just sort of try and put what's been happening with this club into some sort of perspective. And I think I've done so. I went back and took a look at what I wrote about Toronto FC and about the upcoming season at that point. Now, as we reach the midpoint, of course, back in March, I basically wrote a few things talking about what I thought this team would do in the 2011 season and what I thought were realistic expectations in 2011. I actually believed, and I still believe it, and I think the results, even though the results haven't been exactly the way that I thought they would turn out in particular, I think in general, TFC being on the outside looking in of the MLS playoffs at the half point of the season is pretty well where I expected them to be. And being in with a chance to hold on to and to defend the Voyageurs Cup is exactly where I thought they'd be at this point as well. So even though I was a little pissed off in microcosm, I think, on Saturday, after a couple of days of just letting it sit, I realized that I don't really have too much to be upset about at this point. So I'm just going to try to have fun and enjoy what comes down the pike in the rest of this season, win, lose, or draw. And I'm going to get to the Vancouver games upcoming in a few minutes. Now, as I mentioned off the top, I was at the pub on Saturday. I was at a TFC supporters bar. It was a friend's birthday, and I went there, of course, to celebrate my friend's birthday, plus to watch the TFC game with friends. And there were a couple of observations from that evening at the pub that I thought were really noteworthy that I wanted to share with you. The first one was in the second half of the game. TFC, of course, was down 2-0 at the half against Salt Lake City, against Real Salt Lake, I should say. And in this pub, there's about maybe 15 televisions. All of them were on the TFC game, save for one small old television in the back of the pub with one young American gentleman wearing his United States national team gear. That television was not on the TFC game. It was on the Gold Cup final, which was running concurrently with the TFC Salt Lake City game. He was watching the Gold Cup final between Mexico and the USA, and as the second half started, what I found was more and more of these TFC supporters, instead of watching the TFC game that was at this point, of course, a bit of a fait accompli. It was 2-0 at that point, ended up 3-1. A lot more of those guys were drifting away from the TFC game and drifting more and more towards watching the USA-Mexico game and giving the American kid a bit of stick while they were at it because, of course, the Mexicans beat the USA 4-2 to capture the Gold Cup. The interesting part that I found there was not that some of these TFC fans, some of the more passionate TFC fans that I know, were giving an American a bit of stick, but the fact that they were watching something other than TFC when TFC was on at the same time. I think that really speaks to the fact that some of the most hardcore TFC supporters you can possibly think of aren't really too bothered realizing that their club is going down to defeat in a place like Salt Lake City. So that helped me put it a little bit more into perspective. The second thing that I noticed was a good friend of mine who will remain nameless was talking to me and saying, Tim, I'm really scared that at some point this season TFC fans are going to start trying to put the blame so to speak, for the results that this club has been getting on the head of Aaron Winter. I think his overall fear was that TFC would not show the level of patience with Winter that, well, frankly, they show with Mo Johnston, pull the trigger and get rid of him if the results are not what the fans want at the end of the season. Again, I ask everybody watching this to go back and take a look at what your expectations were 4 months ago, back in March. Mine were, as I stated off the top, struggle in MLS, have a fighting chance of getting into the Champions League by holding on to the Voyageurs Cup and maybe making a little bit of noise in the Champions League would be really the best that we can hope for results-wise this season. And of course, starting to see progress on the field by blooding some of the young players and bringing in some new players that fit into the new system and the new approach that Winter, de Klerk, and Mariner actually want this team to actually follow. And with a few exceptions, I think that's exactly what's happening. Let's take a look at the Real Salt Lake game as a case in point. In the second half, a young TFC Academy graduate, Matt Stinson, made his Major League Soccer debut as a second half substitute and acquitted himself relatively well. Donnell Henry, the learning slash blooding, I should say, of Donnell Henry continues. Unfortunately, he looked fairly poor on all three Salt Lake City goals. Hopefully, he'll chalk those up as lessons and as experience that will help him become a better player down the road. Again, hopefully sooner rather than later, because I think over the short term, he's going to be definitely called upon over the next few weeks in lieu of players coming back off injury and in lieu of reinforcements to actually carry the load at center back with Ty Harden. I really hope that the tough road that kid is being forced to take right now actually makes him a better player down the road rather than ruins him, so to speak, and takes away his confidence. So we had young players blooded. We had an expected loss, and of course we now have a club that's getting ready for 2 games against Vancouver. Up on my blog today, I actually put a poll, and it'll be right on that side if you're watching this on my blog and not on YouTube. It'll be right on that side, right next to the video. It's a poll that I'd like you all to take a few moments and actually avail yourself of. Basically, what the poll is asking you is, do you think that Aaron Winter, given the choice, should prioritize victory in the Voyageurs Cup and defense of the trophy and winning something tangible for Toronto FC versus, of course, playing the best 11 that he possibly can on Wednesday versus Vancouver in the Major League Soccer tie, which is coming up, of course, in the next day or so. Now, it might be a bit of a moot point, and again, that's one of the choices in the poll, because Winter has had a tendency at this point to play his best 11, whoever that is on any given day, in every game. Go back to FC Edmonton when we played FC Edmonton away, or at home, I should say. Alan Gordon did the job on his hamstring, of course, even though TFC was up and clear after the 3-0 pasting they gave FC Edmonton at Commonwealth Stadium. So it seems like Winter, culturally, so to speak, believes in going for the win that's in front of him, and then let the chips fall where they may down the road and go for that win and so on and so forth. I think that it would be a big mistake, and this is just my belief, and I really want to know what you guys think as well. I think it would be a big mistake to not prioritize the holding on to the Voyageurs Cup over an MLS game right now that, of course, sees TFC and Vancouver, for that matter, out of the playoffs as it stands right now. Getting into the playoffs, even with the win against Vancouver, is still going to be exceedingly difficult. Building something positive out of this season without the Voyageurs Cup, at the very least, I think is going to be even harder. I'm an Arsenal fan. I follow Arsenal in the English Premier League, and if you follow the Premier League this year, you'll know what happened with the Gunners once again, they go 7 years without a trophy, which would be, of course, as a TFC fan, something we're probably going to be used to long term. But in their case, that's something that hasn't happened to them for a long, long time under Arsene Wenger. They go into the Carling Cup final, prohibitive favorites against Birmingham this year, Birmingham City, and they end up losing 2-1. And at that point, they're still in with a chance in the Champions League. They're still in with a chance in the Premier League. They're still in, of course, the FA Cup. They're still in the Carling Cup. So everything is still in front of them. And they end up blowing the Carling Cup final 2-1, and their season falls to pieces. I think they only win 2 or 3 games for the rest of the year. And they end up not winning anything and barely qualifying for the Champions League this year. The big knock on them, and I'll get to the TFC relationship in a moment, the big knock on the Arsenal team of today is that they don't know how to win. And I would agree with that. I think the same could be said for an Aaron Winter, who's won as a player but has never won anything as a coach. And the same could be said for a lot of the TFC players that have never won anything either, for that matter, whether it be here or elsewhere. And of course, they've never won anything together as a team, this particular group of players. If we win both, that's gravy on the fries, I suppose. But if I'm given the choice, I go all guns for Saturday. I get a trophy. I get Champions League football, at least the possibility of qualification for Champions League football. And I'll let the chips fall where they may. But I'm really curious to hear what you think. Again, the poll is going to be that way on the blog. Please feel free to let us know what you think. One final thing, again, I do want to reiterate the apology. My plan and my promise to everybody this season was to do these video blogs no more than a day after the TFC game. And that is the intention going forward. I think I had a little bit of a cathartic moment in the last couple of days where I was trying to put the results that the team has been having, disappointing results to me on a game-by-game basis, but at the end of the day, results that, frankly, I shouldn't have been surprised to see. So that's it. I'll have another video blog up on Thursday after the game Wednesday, the Major League Soccer tie Wednesday against Vancouver at BMO Field, and then, of course, the big match on Saturday, early Saturday afternoon, versus the Whitecaps as well for the Voyageurs Cup. One final note, the TFC Academy will be playing at Lamport Stadium on Saturday evening. I think the game is at 6 or 6:30. I'll have a post up on the blog about it as well. I can tell you from personal experience, I've been to some Academy games this year. It's a fantastic experience. It's a lot of fun. It's a good time. And it's a real, true local football, and I urge you all to get out and support it as vigorously as I know a lot of you TFC fans can. So thanks again for watching, and we'll have another post up again later this week. Cheers.